Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this July 18th finds that there is one notable change in the forecast, and that is that I have decreased expected rainfall amounts, some versus previous expectations, with regards to the near term rain system in the Corn Belt. Temperature and rainfall outlooks this morning. Certainly no changes in the temperature outlook for the next 2 weeks. A distinct lack of big heat in the forecast for the Corn Belt throughout that time frame, especially cool weather in the 6 to 10 day period in western portion of the Corn Belt. You can see that still going for a lot of below normal rainfall in the Corn Belt for the 6 to 10 day time frame, and that may very well be due to the fact that we are going to be seeing such cool temperatures in that period. It does look like some sort of an increase in rainfall for the 11 to 15 day time frame, but lots of details still to be worked out with regards to that. QPF discussion for the 1 to 5 day time frame. I'm not going to have any major disagreements with this forecast. If I were to draw this forecast, I would probably go drier than this map shows, especially given the fact that, again, my forecast in the near term is drier than what I have presented so far this week. But again, I'm not going to be making any major arguments against what is shown. I certainly do agree that northern and far eastern portions of the Corn Belt will be seeing the best rainfall amounts in the near term, though note that a lot of that rainfall for the eastern Corn Belt is going to be falling for very late in this time frame, so still some time for that part of the forecast to change. For the day 6 to 7 time frame, I would not rule out a threat of rainfall for really any portion of the Corn Belt during this time frame, but anything that does fall would be very spotty in nature, and that should leave a big portion of the Corn Belt dry for the Monday-Tuesday time frame. Afternoon high temperatures yesterday, one of the cooler days we have seen in quite some time in the Corn Belt, with a general lack of 90 plus degree heat across the Corn Belt for yesterday. And note though the big heat that was seen in southern portion of Oklahoma and into a lot of Texas, localized areas there seeing temperatures of more than 105 degrees. We'll be seeing a lot more of that to come in the days ahead. 18-hour rainfall totals through 1 o'clock this morning. Did see some scattered areas of some good rains in southwestern portion of the Corn Belt, but nothing real solid in the way of coverage for that area. Also saw some rains yesterday in portions of Kansas. Any of that rainfall that did fall yesterday in the southwestern Corn Belt clearly quite beneficial in nature. There you can see that rainfall as far as radar estimated rainfalls at 7 o'clock yesterday morning is concerned. Not solid coverage, but certainly some lucky areas of the southwestern Corn Belt did see some very nice rainfall amounts over the last 24 hours. Starting to see some rains once again developing in western portions of the Dakotas and into western Nebraska. You can see that on the radar this morning. That is our upper level feature. You can see quite a bit of a twist or a rotation to those rains this morning. And again, that is all due to an upper level low pressure system that is located in that part of the world this morning. Some very widely scattered activity this morning also across portions of Oklahoma and into the far southwestern Corn Belt. Only spotty locations those picking up significant rains from that system. As far as the near-term rainfall forecast is concerned, again, there is our upper-level low-pressure system that is producing rainfall this morning over the western Dakotas and into western Nebraska. It will continue to be working its way eastward during the near term, spreading rainfall across the Corn Belt from late today through a portion of Sunday. There's a look at that upper-level low-pressure system as it deepens and becomes more significant in nature by the time we get to 7 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and remains a pretty significant feature in the eastern portion of the Corn Belt for late in the day on Saturday. Probably will still be producing rainfall in the far eastern Corn Belt even through Sunday. Looking at 5-day rainfall totals from the upper level system in the near term forecast, you can see that in general, model agreement pretty decent this morning. That expected rainfall amounts in the near term have to be pared back some of that, especially that is the case in southwestern portions of the Corn Belt. For a lot of southern Iowa, a big portion of Illinois into Missouri, Kansas, and a lot of Nebraska, you can see that especially the GFS or the Canadian ensemble and the European ensemble in some very nice agreement this morning, and you can even put the European operational model in that mix as well. A good model agreement among those three models this morning that the southwestern Corn Belt is going to be getting shortchanged on the rainfall totals in the near term. I don't think that it's a problem with coverage. I think that everyone in the rainfall is going to be seeing at least some rainfall with this system over the next 5 days, but especially for a large portion of Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, southern Iowa. Look for rainfall amounts there to be just no more than a quarter to a half inch. Only localized spots getting any better rains than that. Your best rainfall totals in the near term: southeastern portion of North Dakota, a lot of South Dakota, a lot of Minnesota, far southeastern Michigan, eastern portion of Indiana, and into Ohio. Those will be where your better rainfall totals will be seen. A lot of that area seeing more than an inch, some localized amounts of more than an inch and a half. So still a fairly decent rainfall system in the near term, but especially for the southwestern Corn Belt, I had to pare back rainfall totals this morning versus my previous expectations. A temperature forecast, again, still a situation that for the next 2 weeks we are looking at minimal amounts of heat, most places nothing at all for the Corn Belt region. Really the only above normal temperatures in the forecast would be coming up in southern and southeastern portion of the Corn Belt for this Friday and again for Tuesday. You can see that for today, Wednesday, a lot of near to above normal temperatures all across the Corn Belt region. One of the cooler time frames in the 2 week forecast is going to be coming up for around July 23rd through about July 28th, basically encompassing the 6 to 10 day period and into the very early portion of the 11 to 15 day time frame. Again, that would be mainly for the western Corn Belt. You can see that temperature anomalies for July 25th, readings running easily below normal across the western and northwestern Corn Belt, even a pocket of much below normal readings at that time across the northern plains. It may very well be that cool air mass that is going to be keeping rainfall totals fairly limited across the Corn Belt during the 6 to 10 day time frame. Again, it is going to be a northwesterly flow aloft that is going to be dominating the Corn Belt forecast for the next 2 weeks, and that is a northwesterly flow aloft that a lot of times in the summertime can be one that produces some very good or even heavy rains across the Corn Belt. But again, in this situation, I think that it is a northwesterly flow aloft combined with some very cool temperatures, especially in the 6 to 10 day time frame, that is going to be limiting rainfall in the Corn Belt in that period. You can see from the European model that it is forecasting largely no rainfall in the 6 to 10 day period across a big portion of the Corn Belt. Probably too extreme in nature, but you can see that there is very good model agreement that any rain that is going to be seen in the 6 to 10 day time frame across a big portion of the Corn Belt is going to be quite minimal. So very good model agreement on a below normal rainfall forecast for a big portion of the Corn Belt for the 6 to 10 day time frame. There you can see that northwesterly flow aloft and some fairly chilly conditions with below normal heights in the heart of the Corn Belt for the beginning of the 11 to 15 day time frame. Still a dome of high pressure taking up its normal residence in southwestern portion of the nation. You can see that my 11 to 15 day rainfall forecast from the early portion of this video is wetter than my 6 to 10 day time frame, and that may very well be the case due to the fact that we may be seeing some warm up in temperatures during the 11 to 15 day time frame. Still nothing close to any sort of a hot weather pattern, but you can see that overall better areas of above normal heights during the latter portion of the 11 to 15 day time frame, indicative of more of a warmer temperature regime. Still a northwesterly flow aloft in the Corn Belt at that time. So combining that northwesterly flow aloft with somewhat warmer temperatures in the 11 to 15 day time frame, I think that those factors should combine to produce somewhat better rainfall chances in the 11 to 15 day period for the Corn Belt. But again, as always, details have to be worked out. As far as international weather, the first thing I want to point out this morning is some nice rains over the last 24 hours for a big portion of Poland. As far as the European rainfall forecast is concerned, still looking at fairly limited rainfall amounts during the next 2 weeks for a big portion of Germany, northern France, and into England. Combining that with above normal temperatures in that area for the next 2 weeks could mean that we will be starting to hear some complaints about dryness for a big portion of Western Europe in the days ahead. For the summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union, near to mostly above normal rainfall there for the next 2 weeks. A lot of that rainfall coming during the near term. Your wettest area for the 2 week time frame going to be northern Ukraine and areas to the north of there. Spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union, still some rain in far southwestern and far southeastern areas, but in between very limited rainfall for the next 10 days. Over in China, still looking at above normal rainfall for the next 2 weeks in Heilong, Xi'an. That rainfall evenly dispersed throughout the 2 week time frame. Could be seeing some rainfall amounts there of 3 to 5 inches. Still largely below normal rainfall for the next 2 weeks for southern Manchuria and the North China Plain, but you can probably see that the forecast there is not as dry as it has been in recent days, and that is mainly due to a wetter look to the 6 to 10 day time frame, and that is due to the projected path of what is right now Tropical Depression 12W. You can see that the storm system is questioned is expected to make its way into far southern portion of the North China Plain by the time we get to very early next week. And then the model suggests that the remnants of that system will work its way right through the North China Plain and eventually right into the southern portion of Manchuria. It's not a high confidence forecast, but I'm going to go with the European model prediction on that tropical system at this time. And with that type of a projected path, it would be a system that could be very well bringing some very nice rains in the 6 to 10 day period for a big portion of the North China Plain and into southern sections of Manchuria. So those areas in question, still looking at below normal rainfall for the 1 to 5 and 11 to 15 day periods, but a much wetter 6 to 10 day time frame today, assuming that indeed the remnants of Tropical Depression 12W can work its way into that area. For the Canadian prairies, it's still a situation where we're looking at limited rainfall for the next 10 days for especially southern, southwestern Saskatchewan and into southern Alberta, but nice rains to the north of there. Quite a bit of warmth for the rest of this week across the Canadian prairies, but much cooler for Sunday and into the rest of next week. Very dry forecast continues for the wheat areas of Australia. Any rainfall of any consequence for the next 2 weeks, just in small portions of the wheat areas of Western Australia as well as into Victoria. And for finishing up for this morning in India, still limited rains from the monsoon in southern portion of the Indian subcontinent, but some very nice rains going to be falling during that time frame further north in some of those key groundnut, oilseed, and soybean areas of Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and into Gujarat. That's what I have for your Wednesday. Everyone have themselves a great day.